I see it from a distance. I give myself a divorce. I say, George, emotionally you have no stake in this. You don't care one way or another. So watch it. Have fun. You know what? I say it this way. When you're born in this world, you're given a ticket to the freak show. And when you're born in America, you're given a front row seat. And some of us get to sit there with notebooks. And I'm a notebook guy. Oh my God, did you see that? Did you see what he just... And I watch the freak show, and I get my notes, and I make up stuff about it, and I talk about the freaks. And the freaks are all humans, and they're like me, and they're all the same. We're all the same. I'm not better. I'm not different. I'm just apart now. I'm separate. I'm over here because I put myself out of the mix. I don't have a stake in the outcome. I'm not a cheerleader for a given outcome now. Oh, they say if you scratch a cynic, you'll find a disappointed idealist. And I would admit that somewhere underneath all of this, there's a little flicker of a flame of idealism that would love to see it all whoosh, change. But it can't happen that way. And incremental change, it just seems like the pile of shit is too deep.
Welcome to the Doom Kitchen. This is not a news show.
All right, there should be music right there, but of course, technical difficulties, always fun, always present. Welcome to the Doom Kitchen. I'm Ando, and today I'm really excited to be bringing you TheDrizl from Grand Theft World Liberty Radio. And
how's everybody doing?
He's out there in the sunny climes of Acapulco.
The sweltering climes of Acapulco.
Right. How's things going out there? Are you enjoying it?
Dude, I am having the time of my life. Like, if I had known that it was going to be this much fun to live in Mexico, and it truly is fun. Now, again, maybe it's just because of where I am at in my life right now, but like, if I had known this 20 years ago, I would have been here 20 years ago. Like, there's no question whatsoever. Like,
the language, culture difference isn't doing it.
It's language, it's culture, it's lifestyles, it's just, I mean, the people down here are so much more genuine, or at least they seem that way, than the people that I would come into contact with on a daily basis back in the States. They're just very, very grounded people, you know, very the words that we always use, down to earth, humble, like all these things. They're just good people going about their lives, and they don't have like any pretensions about much of anything, really. It's fantastic. It really is.
That's really cool. I've had my share of issues with that culture being in border towns a lot. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm in El Paso right at this moment, and I noticed with the scamdemic that they're very compliant, at least in the border towns. How are they internally?
That actually parallels fairly well with the United States. Where I am in Acapulco is known as more of like a touristy area. So you have a lot more corporations. You have a presence by the federal government. There's a lot of business that happens in this area. And of course, Mexico had a mask mandate for, I don't know, something like 2 years or something like that. It just recently went away. But a lot of the people here, especially when they're at work, because of directives in place by their employer, they're still wearing masks. And of course, that just carries over to the population in general. So it's about 50 to 60% of the people, I would say, that you see down here are going to be masked at any given point. Which is, that took a little bit of getting used to, because, we've seen the masks kind of go away a little bit more in the United States, I think, or at least in the area of the United States where I was. So that took a little bit of getting used to. But there are all sorts of factors that play into why people are still playing that game. So it's one of those things where nobody else talks about it. Like, I walk around without a mask on all the time. I go to the supermarket. I go into Basically all the other areas that I go, I don't wear a mask anywhere I go. I haven't put a mask on in like a year and a half. Nobody says anything to me about it. So, I let them do what they're going to do. It's fine. They want to wear a mask. That's great. Whatever. I don't care. We're just trying to get to the next days in our lives. And we all have our
What do you
reasons
think
for
it
doing
is,
what
though?
we do.
As far as, is it the incessant propaganda? Is it something different about their culture?
Like I said, I think it's a combination of things. Number one, I think TV watching contributes to the people who choose to wear the masks. Because again, there's a lot of propaganda that gets transmitted on that platform. Down here too, I think there's I've talked to a few people about this, and there seems to be a little bit of agreement on it. The people down here have seen infection pathogens, plagues, if you will, devastate their communities before. Like, this is not something that they're unfamiliar with. They know what a worst case scenario looks like already. So I think there's a little bit of that that's just kind of, built into the culture at this point. So they have a mentality to be a little bit more cautious when situations such as we're supposed to believe that we've been through the last couple of years present themselves.
Okay, yeah. My friend out on the East Coast said that the Mexican people out there are not compliant at all, and that I found is really interesting, just because Laredo, where I see it really bad, and I was just down in McAllen and here in El Paso. I'm all over the border. Trucking, the border and trucking just have a lot going together. A lot of freight goes there and comes back. Yeah. But let's talk about your show a little bit, because I listen every week, and every week to 10 days, depending on when you crank them out, and
whenever I manage to get them out.
Yeah. And it was cool because I'm a big fan of Media Monarchy as well, and we're always in that Discord, and then you started making something that's kind of like both of Media Monarchy's shows, and it's tied to Grand Theft World, which is another show that I listen to every single week.
Yeah, well, my original idea for Liberty Radio may be dead and buried at this point. I'm not sure. But one of the things that I had in mind for it as a purpose to fulfill at the very beginning was to be kind of a bridge between a bunch of different communities. Because, of course, I love James Evan Pilato's work. Contribute as much to it as I possibly can in one form or another. I love Grand Theft World, obviously. But there are other communities that I have as much passion for as well. And what I always thought was, wouldn't it be great, as we're kind of getting distributed into these different tribes, where, again, that's almost kind of a form of isolation in and of itself. Wouldn't it be great if we had something that could act as a bridge between all of these different communities who do seem to share a lot of the same ideals, the same dreams, and sometimes even the same goals, even though they might not be aware of it, so again, wouldn't it be great to have something that brings all of these different communities together so that we can be more cohesive in trying to push back against, all the insanity that is unfolding in the world? Because I think ultimately that's what all of these different groups that, I find valuable. I think that's what their ultimate goal is to provide a counter to, what appears to be ultimately destroying our world. So that was kind of the original idea behind Liberty Radio, and have a focus on really the music that is being created by a lot of the artists in the freedom community, the liberty community, whatever you want to call it, and also give those people a platform to be able to share their work with a wider audience than what they may be able to do, because as we all know, we live in the golden age of censorship. So if the powers that be, if they don't want you spreading your message to as many people as possible, well, they have machinations in place that they can use to just shut you down completely, so that you have absolutely no voice whatsoever. And as time has gone on and the show has kind of evolved, it's come to fill like other roles as well. I guess it's more an extension of what I started doing with media round about 2 years ago, which is kind of grabbing all this different data and having a central location to just kind of drop it all, so that if ever, excuse me, if it ever needs to be referred back to at some point, it's there, and like I know where it is. I can go and get it. So yeah, it's kind of this thing that's taken on a life of its own at this point. But I still enjoy doing it. So as far as I know, I'll keep doing it for quite some time, unless people just tell me to stop, or the lawyers come after me, or whatever. It becomes too expensive. I'm not sure what the exit strategy on this one is. Did you freeze up?
There.
You back? Maybe not.
Truck stop life. All right. And we're back.
Okay.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
All right. Sorry, truck stop Wi-Fi. I had to set up on the Wi-Fi at a truck stop, and it's iffy sometimes. But
Gotcha.
One thing that I think can help in this situation is kind of flooding the zone, which is a strategy they used against us, but we use it back against them. And so the more little islands that people can go to and be brought to better things, I'm a drop in the bucket. Like, okay, cool. I made a podcast. There's like 9,000 other dudes that have a podcast. Actually, it's way more than that, but but we just do something. We get our words out there, and they can't censor us all. And it's
Right.
kind of like with other things where they try to take your freedom away, they can't get us all. They do get quite a few people.
Well, they do. And the other thing about that too is I think by increasing the sheer numbers of people who are willing to stand their ground and allow their voice to be heard, by increasing those numbers, you make it that much more difficult on the opposition to be able to shut you down, because the more people that you have standing against something, the more resources you're going to have to use in order to be able to push back against that. So I never discourage anybody not to stand up and say something. I think the more people that we have doing that, the better our chances are of actually being able to build something in this world that isn't just going to be like a giant plantation colony.
Right. Yeah, eating the bugs, as they put it. Yeah, none of us want that, and there's so many people. I end up just talking because I end up riding in Ubers all the time, because I pick up various trucks and take them back to one of our terminals. And so I'll fly in a place, they'll send me to a truck, and I sit and chat with the guy while I'm driving all the time. And it seems so many people are realizing that things are crazy. Yesterday, a guy was like, "So you think the dollar's going to collapse?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude." Just I don't mind. Somebody put it to me this way one time: a black pill is just a red pill that you don't want. And so I really don't mind spreading doom. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I named it this. But we all know, well, you and I both know that it's a reference to a moment on the Thursday NAR show that we both enjoyed so much.
Yeah.
But
that's awesome.
Yeah. So you've also got a blog, and you seem to be very good at finding news that slips by everybody else.
Oh, thank you. I try to be good at it. I'm never quite sure if I am. But yeah, it's as I alluded to a little bit earlier, that's something that I've been doing for the better part of the last couple of years now, is trying to find those individual little data points that just kind of seem to elude everybody else's radar for whatever reason. And there's, these days there's a multitude of reasons that that people may not catch something the first time that it goes around. But yeah, again, it's all part of having that stuff in some sort of way that I can refer back to it from some point in the future. Because again, one of the ways that people allow themselves to be easily manipulated is by not taking the time to develop their memory. And when something happens that actually contradicts something that, they may have known a couple of years ago, but millions and millions of things have happened since they knew that thing. So they probably aren't remembering it. But they have no way to refer back to it because their memories just aren't developed to the point where they can do that. That's one of the reasons why we have the 24-hour news cycle, is so that we can be constantly bombarded with information, so that we really can't remember what happened last week. Sometimes we can't even remember what we ate for lunch yesterday. This is a common condition among human beings in the 20th and 21st century. And it's, in my estimation and in the research that I've done, it's a result of, things that have been done deliberately to manipulate human perception. That might be a little bit off on a tangent from from where I started. I tend to do that from time to time.
But that's how they make the NPCs. That's how the sausage is made. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
They make you forget, and they make you forget even being human a lot of times. They just put you in this fear state, and yeah. So what happened today, other than the Queen dying, is a big question I haven't figured out yet.
I don't think we know yet. That's the thing.
Right.
So all right, if we're gonna kind of dive into this one and speculate, because it's fun. Number one, it's fun to do, and number two, it's kind of hard to point to evidence at this point. But we can say some stuff that we might actually be able to pin down a little bit later on. My thoughts are, all right, if you're going to have something as large as the death of the Queen of England, right, the Queen Mum, 96 years old, which I could have sworn she was older than that. But anyway, 96 years old. So this is something that we've been expecting for a long time, right? Media's been pumping it up for a while, wondering when it was going to happen.
It probably already happened.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't doubt that at all. Not a question in my mind that she could have been dead for weeks, if not months, maybe even years. Who knows? Can't prove it. Can't disprove it. Doesn't matter.
Right.
It seems to me it would be smart, if you're going to throw something like this into the news cycle, which obviously is a huge distraction and will be for multiple days. You throw that in before you do the thing that you want to direct everybody's attention away from. So my thinking is, It's probably not something that's going on today. It's probably something that's going to go on like Saturday, Sunday, maybe Monday. Because by the time we get to Thursday of next week, it's probably going to be the Queen's death is probably going to be out of the news cycle. Like it will have done its job at that point. I expect a good full week of like hard press coverage on it. And then this time next week, nobody will be talking about it anymore. They'll be onto something else. So I expect something over the weekend.
That is how fast these news cycles have been working. Back when Diana died, it was almost a month, but the news cycle is so fast now because the constant bombarding and keeping you off of your feet. It's like it really is. It's like being pummeled in a boxing ring. It's like in any time you stand up, you just get bopped down again.
Yeah. And I mean, even those of us who have an awareness of it as a psychological tactic, we're still subject to it too. It can wear us out just like anybody else. So that's something that, I find myself having to constantly be conscious of, and make sure that I'm not spending too much of my time and too much of my energy gazing at the narrative to try and see what I can find in it. Because again, I don't find it at this point to be all that much different from gazing into the abyss, because it literally just is like this large, amorphous, dark, formless thing now. I don't know. Maybe I've been doing it too long. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I drive a lot of times 11-hour shifts, and I'm listening to podcasts the entire time, and most of them are about what's currently going on. I'm pretty well immersed in it, and yeah, I understand you have to have a life outside of the nonsense, but for some, it's some kind of sick, like glutton for punishment kind of thing that I really kind of love it. I'll scream back at the radio. I'll sometimes, I'll hit the wall whenever I hear something, even if it is fake news. I've actually hit the wall on fake news.
Oh, wow.
Somebody made a video of Brandon saying that the nuclear option is on the table, and I was just like, he's gonna get us killed. Just doing the whole panic thing. But yeah, these things happen.
Yeah. Oh my. President Brandon.
Yeah.
What will we do without him?
It's kind of fun.
It's remarkable entertainment. It really, really is. And the thing is, like, I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever. I'll go on the record right here and say it, even though I've probably already said it before. Like, I don't think he's there at all. Like, at all. Like, the whatever it is that is occupying his body is not like the Joe Biden of 30 years ago. Like, it might be the same person, but the motor upstairs and the engine down below, I don't think they're actually like connected anymore. I'm not exactly sure how they accomplished it, but yeah.
Do you believe in possession?
I don't know. I don't know if I've ever encountered it. Like, I've never been given any obvious evidence of it. All I have are stories from other people.
Right.
So I don't know what I believe as far as that's concerned, but I will say this. Joe Biden went in for surgery twice on his skull, where they literally like cut his skull open to where you could like poke at his brain, right? And that was twice they did that to him. Once was in I think it was the late 80s, and I think the second time was the 90s or 2000, something like that. Anyway, I have come across information that says at that time, the first time that he had his skull cut open, that they had been they is probably not the word I should use. Scientists at that time had been working on implanting electrodes into human subjects into their skulls in order to be able to send electrical stimulation directly into the brain. That was research, that was scientific work that was being done at the same time that Joe Biden had his skull cap removed from his head. I'm not saying that that was what Joe Biden went into surgery for. I'm just saying that those two things were coincident with one another. So who knows? You know, he could be there could be somebody with one of those dual stick remote control controllers. Because I mean, it seems like every other speech he's turning around to try and shake somebody's hand that's not there, right?
Right, and the animatronic kind of walking that he does as well.
Right, right, and like the whole the thing where he was being memed as Cornholio.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's either an android or he's just completely gone. I don't know what the other options are. I really don't.
So I think that a lot of what's going on with the pharma and the drugs, legal and illegal drugs, and alcohol, and pretty much every vice that is giving people, it just kind of it hollows people out, and it makes them a lot easier to be overtaken. I think spiritually, and I've been there before. I've drank so much that something else took over me, and there's a reason they call them spirits. So,
yeah.
that's
I mean, I wouldn't call myself the most spiritual person in the world. I do believe that human beings are not the pinnacle of what the universe is capable of creating. I think there have to be higher forms of life than us, because I mean, really, all you got to do is look around and see how we treat each other to know that humans, they're really not all that evolved when it comes to the creatures on this planet. But I could see that working, because there is an aspect of addiction to anything, really. More so to substances, but you know, there are other things that you can substitute in for, you know, drugs or anything like that, that would still allow somebody, I think, to give over control of their own will to something outside of themselves. Whether we want to call that, you know, a demon or, you know, whatever. I think at that point we're kind of just starting to split hairs, because we're trying to put things into categories with nice labels and pretty little bows on them. But yeah, I can see that type of a lifestyle, that type of behavior wearing a person down, you know, to the point where they would be very easily controlled by something else. No question in my mind, because I mean, I've had low points in my life as well. You know, my biggest addiction has always been marijuana, but I don't say that I struggle with that addiction, because I smoke weed every day, and every day that I smoke weed is usually a good day. You know, so yeah, is Joe Biden possessed by Baphomet? I don't know. Maybe it's possible.
well,
You know,
he's appointing all of these transvestites for powerful positions, and
oh, I know.
Baphomet's the deity of transvestism or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the symbolism is so in your face right now. It's
oh
really
yeah.
kind of ridiculous that people don't see it. But then again, you know, most people, I don't think, really take the time to seek out this information and to try to learn these things for themselves. I think there's at least 50% of us walking around on this planet that are satisfied to allow somebody else to do our thinking for us. And honestly, I think when you get right down to it, with everything that's going on, you know, whether we're talking about World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab, the United Nations, Agenda 2030, you know, all of this stuff, I think it comes down to the battle between the people who still want to use their critical thinking skills and the people who don't. You know, the people who just want somebody else to do it for them and somebody else to give them the answer so they can just plug it in to this little keyhole so they can go on to their next task and do their thing to collect their reward. And unfortunately, I think those are the people that are going to end up being left behind in all of this.
Yeah, they're not doing anything at this point, so they're going to be the people that are going to be plugged into the smart cities. It'll be like I always compare it to the scene in Wall-E. I don't know if everybody's seen that movie, but there's these scooter people, as Legal Man calls them, mutant scooter people, just floating around on these hover scooters, slurping some sort of sludge that I guess they can make it taste like whatever they want it to. And the screen comes on and it's in their face and it says, "Hey, your favorite color today is blue," and they change their shirt from red to blue by pressing a button. And that is my greatest fear, I guess. And the problem with it really in that movie is that there's no real people left. That the computer is the most human thing there, and that's really weird. They were messing with our minds way back then with the predictive programming.
Oh, you know they were. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Pixar is really big on that kind of stuff.
Speaking of, we have to circle back to Joe Biden and his speech last Thursday night really quick. I did not realize this until I was listening to the replay on the latest Grand Theft World episode. The music at the end of Joe Biden's speech, like that Disney score that they had playing after the speech. What the fuck was up with that? Like, seriously, you have this long, rambling, angry, just meandering speech, and then it's like Snow White fucking music at the end of it.
I think that they wanted
MK Ultra stuff. Like, what the fuck?
I think they wanted to change the tone. I think they wanted to bookend it with something that's like, "Hey, yeah, we're going to disarm you and treat you all as criminals because you voted for somebody other than me." And by the way, here's some happy music to go out on.
It was just, oh my God, it was so bizarre. I could not believe I was listening. I was like, what the fuck is this? Who signed off on this? Like, who's production on this? Oh, well, so bad.
The big thing to realize about that is the whole thing was as intended. It wasn't a whole bunch of mistakes. That's what bothers me a lot. I talk to Mudd all the time, and he seems to think that these people are making mistakes still, but he's caught up in the web of like kosher conservative kind of stuff, and I'm like, no, this is intentional. They're telling you this is the declaration of war is happening right now. That's what this is.
Yeah. Who was it? Nellie Fuller was quoted as saying, "Don't be confused that they're confused. They know exactly what the fuck they're doing. They're not. Yeah. They want us to believe that they're incompetent and that they make mistakes, and that the whole reason why all this bad stuff keeps happening is because people are just stupid and they screw up, right? And we just need to get over it and move on with our lives and go fuck something else up."
Right.
No, this is all by design. Because again, if you put human beings into, like a sealed area, right, where they literally have to rely on one another in order to survive, and they start building a community that way, most of the time they're just trying to do what is actually going to benefit everybody the most. It's only once you introduce like the psychopathy of the power struggle into the equation that things start going sideways, because most people just want to live their lives and make sure that they're not hurting anybody else, and nobody's hurting them, and everybody's just getting along and doing their thing and living. Most people aren't trying to get over on each other.
The last couple of years, they made it to where you have to participate in this war.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
whether you like it or not, you're involved in this, and it
Yeah.
really isn't fair. So many people would rather just be chilling, living their lives. I used to
I'm one of
drive
them.
a bicycle taxi, and my event got canceled right in the middle of it, and it's like, okay, what's really going on here? Luckily, I used to be a back in 2005, followed Alex Jones really tightly, and I knew that they were going to use a virus to depopulate us, and here it is. And I'm telling people, and they're like, you're crazy. I lost a ton of friends. I had to delete Facebook, but I don't care. I'm cool with it. I mean, I found out who my real friends are, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's you either accept it for what it is, or I guess you plug back in, right? That's your only
Right.
other choice. Because if you're still on the fence at this point about whether any of this stuff is real, whether it's going on or not, um, you know, whether you're going to be a part of the system or you're going to fight against it, like if you haven't made your decision at this point, I don't know what to tell you. Because it's going to go one way or the other. It's not just going to be a struggle that perpetuates itself ad infinitum. Like there's going to be a resolution to it at one point or another, and it's going to go one way or the other. So we need more people on this side, I think, or at least
Definitely.
I would be more comfortable having more people on this side. So if anybody that is listening to this right now is still on the fence, come on over to our side. We have more fun over here.
Yeah. We talk about some interesting things, and it's all a lot of fun. Like those Uber drivers that I keep getting. We have cool conversations. I kind of figure it out based on, I'm real careful about how I attack the situation. I'll come in kind of slow and smooth, and then by the end of it, they're talking about, yeah, I heard this guy wants us to eat bugs, and I'm like, yeah, dude, yeah, he really does, and start going into it, and then I tell him about all the great shows that I listen to. I don't even tell him about my show. I'm just like, listen to the Propaganda Report, listen to Media Monarchy, listen to James Corbett. Like there's so many useful shows out there, so many great people making awesome stuff, and you definitely included. I really appreciate the time that I spend with Liberty Radio. I love donating to these shows because it's like I'm sitting here and I'm like listening to all this stuff, and I'm like, you know what? These shows, more of these need to exist, and these guys need encouragement and everything like that. I pay probably more than most people pay on cable a month to listen to free podcasts, and I'm super happy about that. And
Well, I'm super happy about it too, man, because I always love getting donations, and I know I'm not alone in saying that. So definitely thank you for helping out to fund the cause, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I think that's the way this whole thing is really going to work. In order for us to be able to get to the other side of this thing, and still have a semblance of a society left, we're going to have to build those structures that are trying to be taken away from us now, like an economy. As hard as it's probably going to be for a lot of people to get their heads wrapped around these ideas, we are going to have to build these things ourselves, because we have been using systems that were built by other people, and the purposes that they had for these systems were not for our benefit. Yet we have made them useful, like money. We can use money and get stuff. We can get food. I can trade money. I can get food. We need to do the work of setting up those parallel structures, so that we can still continue to do things like trade and all of that stuff that we've enjoyed throughout several thousand years now at this point, as far as we know, if we can trust the history.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing about this is it's the basic human stuff. When you start thinking about it, it's like, how do I prepare for an eventual collapse? Because I think we're going to at least face a temporary collapse where the money, you can't print money the way that they printed money and expect to have a society like we had 3 or 4 years ago. And so you got to get back to basics. You know, like I've bought a lot of seeds. I've bought food, buying ammo, other useful things that are tangible that I can trade with somebody if I need to make a trade, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, to me, that's the right way to be going right now. That's one of the reasons why I came down here to Mexico. I could see the writing on the wall as far as what is going on with the energy markets, what's going on with the food supply, everything that's kind of coming to bear in Europe right now and will be visited upon the United States a little bit later this year, I fully expect. I saw all that stuff back at the beginning of the year. I saw it coming down the pike, and I was like,
Oh, yeah.
all right, well, I know more so than anything else, I want to make sure I'm in a place where I don't have to worry about where my next meal is coming from. Like there's going to be food around me no matter what. So as far as I'm concerned, whatever's coming can come. I feel like I'm in the right spot right now. I did my prepping the best that I could with the time that I had, which was to find like the optimal place to be, and then get there and start building a network. And essentially that's what I've been doing since I got down here to Acapulco. But yeah, however people can prepare for a worst case scenario in their own lives, in their own situation, wherever they happen to be, what they have access to as far as resources, you're never going to put yourself in a bad position by doing that. And especially right now, I don't know that there's a whole lot of time left to prepare for, collapse of world economic structures and all of that sort of thing. I think we're kind of past the point of return as far as that goes. But I mean, hey, if it's just going out and getting like a bucket of safe and ready meals for, a couple $100 so that you have at least a couple weeks of food, at least you can do that. Again, it just goes back to people taking responsibility for themselves as opposed to outsourcing it to someone or something else. And making sure that they're taking care of themselves and that they're going to have what they need should bad things happen. We all encounter a rainy day in our lives at some point. It's never a stupid idea to try and prepare for that. It just looks like we're all going to have a rainy day at the same time, like probably for several months, if not years.
Yeah. So, I think it's kind of fun too. And I know that I'm maybe a little bit sick and twisted in that way that okay, this is cool because I'm laying out some things. I'm trying to tell people that don't expect electricity forever. That's a thing that people, it's so normal to us that we just turn on the lights, and yeah, it's going to be really different for a little while, but I think what we're going to come back with is our humanity, and whether they try to beat it out of us, we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I've spent so much time just trying to forecast the ramifications of the events that have taken place in our world over the course of the last 5 years or so. And I never get to a point where I feel like anything that I'm looking at is going to cause something good to happen in the future. So I think, as much as I hate to say it, and as much as it is like a huge black pill for a lot of people, man, there are some really, really bad times coming. And it's going to take a lot of people by surprise, and they're going to react to it, which of course is going to be a very, very bad thing because it's going to cause them to do all sorts of things that, they would otherwise not do in a polite society. And we're going to have to deal with all of that stuff.
Yep.
Even those of us who are trying to put ourselves into good positions, we're going to have to deal with that too. So I hope you're right. I think that would be, in many ways, a best case scenario is if we can get to the other side of this whole thing and we still have our humanity intact. But it's going to be ugly getting there. I just don't see any other way around it. I really don't, especially at this point. Like 2 years ago, things could have turned out completely differently. Even a year ago, I think things could have turned out completely different. But at this point, I don't see any other way forward other than a lot of people die. It's really difficult. And eventually we get to the other side of it. I don't know what that looks like, though. That's the only thing.
Yeah, we kind of have an estimation because I heard you talking not too long ago, maybe about 2 or 3 weeks ago. You were talking about the TheDrizl report, and then Charlie did an episode on that recently on macroaggressions, and that is some terrifying stuff.
Oh yeah, it's terrifying depending on what country you live in. If you live in India or China or Brazil or even
Papua
Mexico,
New Guinea.
Yeah. Great
Iraq.
Report. It was Mexico was actually one of the countries whose population was projected to increase between 2015 and 2025. So again, I feel like I'm in a good spot.
Good call. All right.
Yeah.
So you intend to stay there?
I intend to stay here until something happens that I can't stay here anymore. And I don't want to get too detailed on that at all, because I don't want to give the universe any ideas, right? But I'm absolutely loving it here.
Okay.
The weather has taken some getting used to. Living without air conditioning, central air, definitely took some getting used to, but I think I'm actually starting to acclimatize a little bit now. And we're finally starting to get out of the rainy season. So it'll, the temperature should drop by about 5 degrees or so each day. So it'll be, instead of it being like 90 degrees with 85% humidity, it'll only be 85 degrees with 85% humidity, which is a big plus in my book.
It sounds really nice. I'm from Houston, and it's hotter there. So.
I hated Houston. Couldn't fucking stand Houston.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you get out of the car and sweat through your shirt before you can make it into the store. Yeah.
Well, and I mean it's like that here too, especially during like the really, really hot part of the day. But like now, like we've got some storms that have been rolling through the last couple hours, so that's helped cool things down. And of course, with the storms, you get some breeze off of the bay, and that helps cool things down. I mean, it's a lot of people say a lot of bad things about Mexico. I can honestly say that in the 2 months, or I guess it's been a little bit more than 2 months that I have been here now, other than the size of the cockroaches, which I have seen one of the cockroaches, I do not have a bad thing to say about Mexico. I've had nothing but pleasant interactions with the people that I've come into contact with. The food is out of this world. And the weather is fantastic. I haven't put on a pair of pants or a long sleeve shirt or a jacket since I've been here. It really is in many ways kind of still like a paradise, because again, the federal government, at least in this area, in the part of the country that I'm in, federal government is very weak. The local government and the cartel pretty much run the show here. So you stay on their good side and you're good to go. You know, they'll pretty much leave you alone. And there's a lot of freedom that you can still have here in Acapulco that you're not going to find, not just in other places in the country, but in other countries. Like I feel way more free right now in Mexico than I did in the United States for years. Like I felt the oppression of the growing police state pretty much since 9/11, and watched it advanced over the course of 2 decades. Again, Americans who are still in the country, and if you're watching this right now, you don't live in a free country. I'll debate anybody on that subject who wants to debate me on it. You do not live in a free country, period. You are property of the United States federal government, and they will do with you whatever you please. I don't have to worry about that. I'm not property of the Mexican government. I'm not property of the local government of Acapulco. I'm not property of the cartel. So again, as long as I stay on their good side and don't step on their toes, and maybe even help them try and accomplish some of their goals, they're going to leave me alone. They might even help me try to accomplish some of my goals. And that's what we're supposed to be doing as human beings. We're actually supposed to be working together to help each other accomplish the things that we want to accomplish, as opposed to, sanctioning people or taxing people or trying to extract value from people without actually doing anything to earn it.
Yeah. I had an ex that lived in Tijuana, and I was helping her move. So I went by myself and drove in Mexico for a moment. It was weird because, I don't know the language. So there's all that. And I got pulled over, and I don't even know why. I had to call her to talk to the guy on the phone, the cop, and really he was going over the license plate and apparently picked the wrong state as far as finding out if I had a stolen car or not. But then he just wanted me to pay him in the end. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. Here's some money, and then he let me go. And
yeah,
okay, I'd rather that.
That's one of the great things. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's one of the great things about Mexico. And I would imagine it's probably the same in other places that they consider to be like failed states, right? Because that's what the international community considers Mexico to be, as a failed state, because the federal government does not have control of the entire country. But yeah, everything is negotiable here. There's even, I was talking to a couple of other expats that live down here a few weeks back, and they were kind of filling me in as far as local law enforcement is concerned. So each of the police departments for the different areas down here in Acapulco, they're not connected to one another. They're all separate. You could basically think of them like private security, right? They don't really report to anybody other than who's in their chain of command. So yeah, if you get pulled over by the cops down here, most of the time, a few hundred pesos will just take care of the situation, and everybody goes home happy.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to close this out with Podophiliac making a theme song for you. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, I didn't even know that it had been done until the album got released. That was not something that she gave me advanced knowledge of. So that was really a huge surprise. And I was obviously honored that she chose, me and my little show as a like a creative influence to be able to create the song. And of course, also honored to be included with James and Shames Frown and everybody else that she wrote songs for on that album. But yeah, that was cool. I don't think I've ever had anyone write a song for me before. So that was a first. So Fido, if you're listening, you can cross that one off of the list too. You got that one.
Yeah, I think it's cool that you have a theme song. A theme song exists because you exist. So that's really cool. So her album is called Conspiracies, and the song is called Liberty on the Radio, because that's what you do. You spread liberty by the way of the radio, and we're going to hit that right here. And thank you for coming on with me.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. I had a lot of fun.
And y'all make sure to tune in to Grand Theft World Liberty Radio and check out manufacturingreality.org.